Center for Inclusive Childcare welcomes you to Inclusion Matters. We share resources and information to support quality childcare for all children. By partnering with early childhood professionals, parents, grandparents, and other caregivers, we work together to help every young child thrive. Welcome to Inclusion Matters, a podcast from the Center for Inclusive Childcare. I'm Priscilla Weigel, the Executive Director, and I am happy to be here today with a partner of ours and also a really amazing colleague in the field. Her name is Marie Lister. She's the Director of Training for Young Hearts, Open Minds, and she's also the Director of Teaching and Research at the University of Minnesota Child Development Center, right in the Twin Cities here. So welcome, Marie. I'm so excited about our conversation.
Thanks so much, Priscilla. I'm excited to be here.
So we're going to learn today about Young Hearts, Open Minds and what it can provide to the early childhood field as really a tool and a resource when we look at the development of bias in young children. So Marie, why don't you just jump in and tell us kind of what's behind Young Hearts, Open Minds and what brought it to being, and then we'll go into some more depth as we converse.
Yeah, thank you so much. Young Hearts, Open Minds is a program that is designed to sort of mitigate the bias, right? Prevent the development of bias in young children. And it's really geared towards early childhood education and has sort of a four-pronged approach, right? It's a training program for educators and people that work with young children. And the training program addresses one, just it invites teachers to reflect on their own bias and their own upbringing, and really reflect on how it shows up in the work that they do with young children. It provides sort of concrete activities and things that you can do in the classroom, discussion points, books, things like that, to help children sort of grow up with a broader understanding of the world, right? So it really centers the in-classroom work with celebrating children's identities, really deeply valuing all of the different ways children navigate the world and all of the different identities that children bring into the classroom, right? Naming and celebrating difference is a core part of the program. It also has a parent education component, right? So it's working to help parents be able to step into these conversations with their children with more confidence. And then also, I think, right, just broadly creating this group of coaches and teachers that feel empowered to talk about really difficult topics like race and racism and bias. In the work that I do with teachers around this topic and the anti-bias work that I do with teachers in a lot of different spaces, I think one of the things that comes up all of the time is teachers aren't ready to talk about race and racism with young children, right, until they have the perfect answer. They want to show it perfectly.
Exactly. Yep.
Right? And I can't do it until I've read every book or I've listened to every podcast. And so much of the work I do is just, I think, modeling, showing up imperfectly, and holding space for teachers and saying, right, like, you're not going to do this work perfectly, but by stepping into this work, you're showing children that these topics are not too scary to talk about. They're not too big for you to hold. And that in and of itself is such a big piece of the work. And so just getting over that hump, I think, is a big part of what a training program like Young Hearts, Open Minds can do.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I have to say, so we worked with Marie, our team of coaches, and, when we first found out about Young Hearts, Open Minds and talked with the founders and really spent time getting to know you too, we know in our space, we've worked so hard to work on the inclusion idea of bias and that foundation of let's look at what the children can bring to the table and what they can do and not be stuck on the can'ts and the hard things and the challenges and all of that. And so the pairing with Young Hearts, Open Minds for our team was just a beautiful partnership because it's just this as you said, equipping our coaches to really have those conversations out in the field when they're noticing things, because we're in a lot of childcare settings. And when things come up, that's the time you want to have those skills ready, that confidence. And as you said, a lot of times we all think we're supposed to have this perfect answer. And we also know that young children are super forgiving. They're curious. They just want to know. And sometimes we need to just be curious together and try to figure things out as we move forward together with the child, and not have like that perfect answer.
I love that phrase, being curious together. I think that's so much of what teaching is, right? Wondering alongside children,
Yeah.
and modeling for them that it's okay for them not to be perfect and them not to have all the right answers.
Right.
And I think, when we're curious alongside children, I think we open up the world in a lot of ways for them.
Yeah. Yeah. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about the core premises of Young Hearts, Open Minds? And at CICC, we kind of coined the YHOM acronym because it's short. It's a long name. And we really can't speak to that because we're the Center for Inclusive Childcare. So we have a long name too. But tell us about those premises that are really core to the work.
Yep. The program is based on 5 core premises, right? The first is that children are not born racist, right? That we socialize them. The world, especially American culture, socializes them into racism, right? And so we know that so much growth and development happens in the early years that we want to get in there when children are really forming their ideas about how the world works and who they are in the world and what their relationship is to other people. We want to get in there when they're forming these ideas and, again, crack them open by helping them wonder about the world in sort of new and bigger ways. The second premise is that we know, right, that children begin to notice differences between themselves and others at a very young age, and begin to make judgments and develop biases about those differences soon thereafter. And so one of the big pieces of work that I do in a lot of the conversations that I have with coaches and with teachers is just how do you talk about difference with children, right? Really young children. And helping a lot of caretakers move from a place, right, that's sort of like colorblind, right? I don't see color. I treat everybody equally. Into a place of, I celebrate color, right? I celebrate difference. I celebrate everybody's individual identity because I know that naming difference and helping children map out how they can be in community with different people who are different than them is a huge piece, right, of helping children not develop that bias and instead grow up with a broader understanding and an inclusive understanding of community.
Yeah.
The third premise is that we all, in particular white people, need to take action to address and prevent the development of racial bias and racism. For me, this comes up in the trainings that I do. Right, we know that families of color, as a necessity often of safety, are having conversations about skin color and race and racism with children often at very young ages. And I hear from a lot of white families, right, that, they're too young to think about this. They're too young. They're not old enough for that conversation yet. And so, again, using like research findings, anecdotal stories. I've been teaching for 18 years, right?
Yeah, you've got good stories.
A lot of my own stories and stumblings to share with people, right? To say that, no, we know that children are noticing this. And by not speaking about it, we're sending a message, right? That silence is a message in and of itself. So helping caretakers move into a space of courage, right? Where they're really ready to have these difficult and brave conversations. The fourth premise is that the content of the Young Hearts Open Minds program is informed and shaped in consultation with people of color and communities of color, right? It's not just like a couple of white people sat down and were like, what we need to do to help.
Yeah.
And then the fifth premise is that the Young Hearts Open Minds program is based on the integration of science and developmentally appropriate early childhood educational practices. And so I've been a part of the Young Hearts Open Minds program right from the beginning when it started 4 years ago, and really was along for the ride and helping inform a lot of the module content that they developed. And so it was really interesting to be a part of that process and to just see how deeply they respect like the opinions of teachers and educators in the field. And so the program, right, is when you go through the Young Hearts Open Minds program, it's a 10 module training program. And we really work to build community and create a space where people can be vulnerable with each other, and share, right, like their understanding of race and racism and bias, and have these brave conversations in community with each other. And so we work through kind of that internal exploration, right, of bias, that sort of external, like how do I talk to other people about this? How do I talk to parents and children about this? And then what can I actually do in my classroom? So we kind of work through those different stations over the course of our 10 weeks together.
That's beautiful. And I'm going to say, you mentioned, you sharing a lot of stories and your stumblings. And I think that that's something that came through with our team was there's just a lot of grace and humility in the way that this content is presented. It's not a shaming, oh, if only you could do it perfectly. As you noted, there's not a perfect answer for every moment. And so I think that that also makes it so attractive to folks going through it, to know that everyone's learning alongside each other, and we're all on this continuum, and it's not a judging experience. It's really how can we learn from those stumblings and also share that we stumbled. I think it's so important to show children that mistakes happen and life can go on, and we can also remedy the situation in some instances and sometimes not. When kids maybe hurt a peer or whatever, and they're thinking, oh, I'll give him a hug. Well, that child might not want him to come near them. Or I'll say, I'm sorry. Well, I don't know. Will that help? We'll see. Let's give it a shot if you think that's an option. But, we do all that with children so well. But when it comes to ourselves in this arena of talking about these topics that are so, I'm like volatile in so many situations, I think that this is particularly special in the way that it's presented. So I just want to call that out to Marie, because that means a lot, I think, to educators who are going through this process.
Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that, because I do think, right, shame shuts it down. It shuts the work down. And so holding space for people, again, I think that's the most important part of the coaching that I do, is trying to create this space where people can really say, like, this is how I'm thinking about it. This is my approach. What do you think? Is this okay?
Yeah.
Should I think about this in a different way? It's hard to do, right? That's a vulnerable thing to do. But it's essential to the work, and it's essential to the growth. So yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah. So when you think about, who are you targeting? You've mentioned it a little bit, but when you look at participants and what the organization is really trying to do, how do things work? Where do you start? Who are your participants?
Yeah, one of the things that I love about this program, again, right, I've been teaching for 18 years. And so I've gone to many, many anti-bias trainings that are an hour long, and there's no shame in that game, but it's not sustainable, right? And so I appreciate, one, that it is iterative, right? That we're building this community together. When we meet, so when I coach a cohort, we meet over 10 weeks, and each week we meet for about an hour or an hour and a half and talk about the previous module, right? Mm-hmm. And there's no meeting that looks the same between cohorts, because it's all just like the work we do with children. It's all individualized to the cohort's needs. And so it's really saying, like, okay, what are you thinking about? Okay, this is where you are, right? I had one of the first cohorts I did, somebody showed up to the first meeting and they said, I don't really need to be here. I don't see color. I love everybody equally. Yeah. Good. Thank you so much for sharing. First of all, thank you for being brave enough to share in our first session together. And two, what that just lets me know is where I can skew the conversation, right? Where I need to guide the conversation and invite you to think about things in a new and different way. And so, yeah, creating these spaces for people to share, and creating these spaces for people to be vulnerable is such a big part of it. And so what we do is, and the other reason that I love sort of the way that this program is set up is because we partner with schools And so we'll take like a whole group of teachers from one organization or one school. And I think the way it did with your organization, I think, is that it creates a culture of support and accountability, right? And so it's not like you're the only person at your school going through this training. You're going through this training with about 8 or 9 of your colleagues. And so I think that too, right, creates a community and sort of this expectation in your school where everybody's like, okay, I might not know the perfect way to talk about it, but I know that we all are in these conversations together. And so maybe I can be a little bit braver in my own practice, right? Because I know that the person in the classroom next to me is also on this journey with me. And so I love creating these community cohorts at different schools and organizations because I think it just kind of elevates the conversation system-wide in the school.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And we are working with Young Hearts Open Minds through a subcontract that we have together to really help adapt the content to support family childcare settings as well. So those of you out there who are listening from the family childcare space, don't worry, they're working on making it feasible and useful in the format that will meet your needs as well as family childcare. So that's exciting. And I think that that's so needed. And I'm grateful to be a part of that work too. And so when you think about even looking at some of those key strategies and you talked about how things are formatted. One thing that I do know from our time with you is there is like an online classroom space and then there's also written materials. I mean, I think that they're paired together well. And you talked about, kind of unpacking the modules together. So there's a little bit of homework and then there's work together. Is that true to the format that you want to get out there to let people know?
Yes. And thank you, because accessibility is key, right? Again, I think having teachers is part of the planning process. I'm tired, you guys. I'm a teacher. I'm a preschool teacher, in addition to all of the titles that you listed at the beginning. My heart is in my preschool classroom. I teach in the afternoons. And so I'm tired at the end of the day. And so thinking about how we can make this really accessible for teachers. And so there's an online module, there's a binder that we can ship to you and get to you so that you can, some people have shared with me like during nap time at school, right? That's when they're able to go through the binder. And we also now have audio content. So like sort of a podcast format. Some people said listening to the modules on my commute to work is like the time of the day that I have to do that. And so, yep, there's a little bit of homework for each, before each meeting that we have. And again, what I talk to coaches about is like, if you show up and you had a hard week and you didn't get a chance to do that module, I'm not going to punish you for that. We want you to have done the module content.
Sure.
Again, we want to create a space where people can show up and be themselves and really authentically enter into these conversations. So the modules accessible online on Moodle, accessible through like a podcast format, and then also a physical binder as well.
Yeah. And that really, I think, says a lot to the commitment of the organization that is really, we want people to be able to do this and ideally to do it well and to hit all the options that you're providing, but also going back to that kind of grace and a humility piece of, we get that everybody's got a lot going on. And so we'd rather you show up than not come and not be a part of the group in that cohort, because then you're missing out on that really rich conversation, even if you didn't have a lot of time to dig into it. So when we think about wrapping up this conversation and looking at some of the things that I know that if folks are interested, you have a website. And so do you want to talk about that? Like if folks are interested in pursuing this further, what do they do?
Yes, absolutely. So if people are interested in pursuing this further, they can go to our website, and that is youngheartsopenminds.org. And you can also reach out to Frank Forsberg, who is our coordinator for new partnerships. And his email is forsbergfp YHOM@gmail.com. And we are always looking for new partnerships and new people to jump on board, because we think that this is really important.
Oh, well, and true, we'll include these links in the podcast when we post it, when it's live on our website. We'll include the links to your website and also to Frank's contact as well. And just looking forward to the next time I get to talk with you, Marie. I always enjoy our conversations, and I'm super excited about the fact that you're at the U teaching future teachers, and just helping them kind of understand and develop and cultivate that joy of the connection with these little ones who are so precious and so important for us all to be mindful of this time that is, critical for all of that foundation of learning and acceptance and inclusion and all of those pieces. So thank you, Marie Lister, for being with us, and we'll look forward to another conversation, hopefully in the near future.
Always a pleasure. Thanks so much.
If you want more information, as I said, we will have this posted on our website. We'll have those links included. And also you can just go to inclusivechildcare.org if you want a lot of other resources. We have lots of things available there. So thank you for listening. For more information and a wide range of resources, visit inclusivechildcare.org. You'll find information on our coaching services and support on topics such as healthy child development, strategies for encouraging positive behavior, and guidance on including children with unique social, emotional, and learning needs, and much more.